Hello and thank you for participating in this webinar today. My name is Evgeniya Paliy and I'm the Product Manager for the Benelux market in Synology. Today we're going to talk about how to protect and recover your data in virtualized environments. During this webinar, feel free to ask your questions in the chat and Synology team will respond to you. And in the end of this presentation, you will have extra 15 minutes for the questions and answers session. You probably already know that virtualization is key in today's IT environment, as companies are constantly trying to achieve maximum optimization of their IT systems. Why is it so? Firstly, because managing IT can be quite costly for some companies. And by virtualizing your server infrastructure, you can help reduce your hardware and maintenance costs by as much as 60%. In addition to cost saving, virtualization lets you centralize services and ease management for IT admins, making some tasks be performed up to 90% faster. Among other benefits, the migration of physical servers to virtual machines allows you to consolidate them onto fewer physical servers and take less physical space. This will again lead to reduced costs. Therefore, server virtualization brings positive transformations to business IT environment. Of course, virtualization doesn't protect you from data loss. Even on contrary, if your main hypervisor fails, then all your services will stop, which will have serious consequences. That is why today we would like to discuss the topic of safeguarding the virtual data and want once again to emphasize why it is important. By statistics, the majority of companies that suffered a major data loss closed down within 6 months. So without a proper backup strategy, companies can have serious issues. And despite of that risk, 58% of companies are not ready in case of the major data loss. Thus, it's vital to protect your virtualized environment, but how can you do that? There are 3 main levels of protection of virtualized environments. The first one is to protect your iSCSI SAN directly on the data store level. The second one is to protect the virtual machines directly through a complete backup of both your data and the OS. And the third one is to ensure the hardware level protection, usually through high availability. Of course, each level is a bit different in the way we approach the data protection. For the data store level, you will use your NAS as an IP SAN for iSCSI storage to host storage for your virtual machines. It lets you leverage the existing hypervisors that are already in your infrastructure, therefore cutting down the expenses. Of course, once you do that, you will need to keep your data store always available because they host all the storage for your virtual machines. On the virtual machine level, you will use your Synology NAS as your central backup device to protect all your virtual machines by doing backups of the operating system and the data of the VMs. If you do that, you will need to ensure that you can restore the virtual machines as fast as possible. On the hardware level, the approach is a bit different, because usually you want to replicate your data across different controllers, so you want a complete hardware redundancy, and you want an instant failover to remove any downtimes that may happen. So each level covers different scenarios, and we today are going to discuss each of them in details. Let's start with the first one, which is the data store level. We're going to see how we can leverage the existing hypervisor and keep costs down. To select a proper solution, you first need to understand what kind of data you are working with. There are 2 types of data. Hot data is the one that needs to be accessed frequently and right away. As a rule, the information is business critical, and when you need it, it must be available immediately. Cold data is accessed less frequently, and also it doesn't require the fast access. It can include data that is not anymore in active use and might be archived, for example, some old projects or some business records. The data retrieval and response time of cold storage systems are usually much slower than services designed for active data manipulation. Synology provides different solutions adapted to both kinds of this data. Hyper Backup is for cold data, and for hot data you can use Snapshot Replication, which is a very powerful snapshot solution. We will explore now the possibilities of both solutions, starting with Hyper Backup, which is our cold data backup software. Let's see what it can do. Hyper Backup allows you to perform lance backup locally to another volume, to an external drive, or the most interesting, to a remote Synology NAS. So you see that this application is flexible because it allows you to choose among multiple destinations for your backup. Let's explore other highlights and possibilities of this application. What is interesting with Hyper Backup is that it allows you to reduce the needed storage thanks to the block level incremental backup. Only the modified blocks will be backed up, and as a result, backups are quicker and they take much less space. There is also block level deduplication, which again minimizes the storage consumption and thus reduces costs. And you can also easily manage the backup settings, create schedules of backups, for example, if you want a backup task to repeat at specific hour every day. Within this application, you are able to restore the data very easily, either from network or from an external drive. As you can see, Hyper Backup focuses on the storage efficiency, and it is the best solution when you need to create a cold archive of important data. And although it can be used as a backup tool for hot data, usually IT professionals tend to favor speed when it comes to hot data. That's why we have Snapshot Replication, our snapshot tool dedicated to efficient protecting of hot data. How does it work? Just like with Hyper Backup, Snapshot Replication allows you to choose the destination of the replication of your LAN, whether locally on another volume or to another Synology NAS. So what makes Snapshot Replication much more efficient than Hyper Backup in terms of backup and restore? Unlike Hyper Backup, Snapshot Replication is focused on performance, both speed of backup and also speed of recovery. You may take snapshots very often and restore them very quickly, and you also can replicate your data to another NAS. So if you have multiple NAS set up, you have a 15 minutes RPO, which is very low. Snapshots use only a small amount of additional storage space, so they do not have a performance impact because we're using a very light snapshot technology. And there is also a possibility to set up a customizable retention policy to optimize the storage usage and adapt it to your needs. Of course, we support compatibility with the VMware vCenter Recovery Manager to make sure you can easily integrate Synology in your existing environment. This makes Snapshot Replication the best tool for hot data protection and to ensure low downtimes during disasters. So as we saw, we have a solution for cold data that focuses on storage efficiency, and also a solution for hot data that focuses on frequency and speed of backups and ensures a quick restore process. To illustrate this use case, we have a very interesting case study to share with you. It was done with the partnership with UNESCO, who trusts Synology to provide them high speed and reliable virtualization storage. The challenge of this case was to bring local virtual machine storage and backups to 70 sites. Some of these field offices had very low bandwidth, and it was the limitation for having a global file server and global service solution installed. So instead, they went for a local solution on each site, and therefore to host services directly on each site. The organization was looking for a reliable, secure, and easy to deploy solution that could be flexible enough to be easily integrated into the existing IT infrastructure and that could standardize their IT system. So what was the solution that was provided by Synology? In this case, we're leveraging our iSCSI LANs technology and Hyper Backup to protect these iSCSI LANs efficiently. Each of the 70 sites of the organization has a Hyper-V cluster for virtualization, and they then offload the storage onto a RS3617 Access Plus, which acts as a SAN data store. And each of those RS-3617 Access Plus is backed up daily with Hyper Backup. And the advantage is that since it is a cold data, they can use any kind of NAS to do the backup, and they went for a very cost-efficient DS418, which allows them to have a very affordable backup target. As a result, UNESCO was very happy with this solution. The organization said it's reliable and powerful enough for them, creating a unique infrastructure for all their offices across the world. The RS-3617 Access Plus and 4-by NAS that are used for the backups provided proved the cost cutting, and overall the system is very easy to deploy and to maintain. So as you can see, even enterprise level needs can be satisfied with Synology, both products and solutions, for a fraction of the usual deployment cost. And now we've seen how to efficiently protect your SAN data using Synology solutions. Let's move on to the second level, which is the virtual machine level. The goal here is to completely protect virtual machines with their operating systems to be able to quickly restore them somewhere if needed so. And to achieve that, we have an amazing free solution to share with you today. This is Active Backup for Business, or shortly ABB. ABB lets you eliminate virtual machine downtime and reach near zero RTOs. How can we do that? Let's see Active Backup for Business and how we can quickly back up and your entire IT infrastructure. In terms of compatibility, we mentioned before that it's very important to have a solution that is compatible with your existing servers. Our ABB supports Windows PC, Windows Server, also VMware, Hyper-V, as well as any server that supports SMB or rsync protocols. And with Synology, you are able to back up all these devices on a Synology NAS within only one centralized software. Not only are we compatible with most platforms, but Active Backup for Business also provides a range of high-end features to really step up your backup strategy. So it lets you create a completely license-free backup strategy for your IT environment adapted to your needs. You can protect all your physical devices and all your virtual machines. We also provide advanced backup performance to help you make the most of your storage. We also feature a complete block-level deduplication for storage optimization, just like in a Hyper Backup. We provide a broad range of options to be able to cover any kind of scenario that you might encounter in case of disaster recovery. We're going to focus more specifically on backup and restore strategies to see first how you can most efficiently protect your data, and then how you can easily restore the data if needed. The backup strategies, to start with, as a company, you're going to need to do a quick deployment and make sure that everything works as smooth as possible when you select a backup solution for your virtual machines. With Active Backup for Business, our goal is to help you create a perfect backup strategy with adequate backup scheduling and efficient storage use. That's why, as it was presented before, we feature both VMware and Hyper-V complete compatibility, and you can also back up any Windows virtual machine as a server if needed. We do incremental block-level virtual machine backups to make sure that all changes are backed up every time you do a backup, but they don't overload the bandwidth. In terms of frequency, we do an up to hourly backup schedule. And you can also select backup windows, for example, if you want your virtual machine to be backed up at a certain time. And we also include a customizable retention policy, which lets you set up the number of versions that you want to keep and for how long you want to keep them. And of course, to reduce the storage that you need for backups, we use block-level deduplication. And at this point, let's see in more details why this feature is so great. Suppose in your infrastructure you have multiple PCs running the same OS, or even if you have cross-platform devices, for example, a Windows virtual machine and a Windows PC. The data is divided into blocks, and we are able to identify each blocks of data across different devices and also across different platforms, both physical and virtual, unlike some other backup softwares that separate them. And once we have identified all these blocks of data, we are able to remove the ones that are duplicated. And we are going to back up only these deduplicated blocks onto a Synology NAS, which means your storage needs will be reduced. In practice, the deduplication rate can reach up to 2-3 times, but it always depends on the type of data that you have. But in general, your initial storage will be divided by at least 2, and you need less storage to perform your backup tasks. Then you might want to protect your infrastructure even more, such as from a physical damage. For this purpose, we allow you to do a remote backup of your active backup for business data. That is possible with Snapshot Replication and Hyper Backup. You just need to create a link with another Synology NAS that is located remotely and to do a backup of your active backup for business folder. This way you are sure that if something happens on your first NAS, on your main NAS, you can always retrieve your data from another one, your backup NAS. So you can see that you can very easily create the backup strategy that is going to fit your infrastructure and cover all your needs. But what happens when something goes wrong? When the disaster strikes, you will have to use these backups to restore your data. And now let's see how you can do that. In case you need to quickly restore some files, you can use Active Backup for Business self-service restore portal. What is very convenient is that anybody who has an account on your NAS will be able to access this portal and restore their files by their own without the help of IT admins. The interface is very easy to use. There is a timeline which allows you to choose at which point of time you want to go back. And once you find this missing file, you can download it on your computer or restore it to the initial location directly to the virtual machine. Of course, this allows to reduce the workload of the IT staff. Now imagine that one of your virtual machines on your NAS is down. There are several ways that you can approach this scenario. The first one is to do a full restore. When one of the virtual machines is down, you can simply take the backup from your NAS and then send it over the network to your hypervisor and restore the virtual machine. And the time of restoring the virtual machine is going to be equal to the time required to move the image from over the network from the NAS onto the hypervisor. And then just boot the virtual machine that you imported. If the size of the virtual machine is big, it can take some time, and if you don't have this time, then you can have another restoration approach, which is an instant restore. Let's take the same scenario. One of your virtual machines is down, and you need to restore it as quickly as possible. To achieve a fast restore, you will leverage the NAS serving as a data store. And then the image is already on the NAS, since it's backed up there with the Active Backup for Business. So instead of moving the image over the network, we can simply mount the image through the NFS on the hypervisor, and the NAS, our backup server, turns into a stand, providing storage for the virtual machines. So the storage itself is not actually moving because it's already on the NAS, and we're just going to boot the virtual machine using that image on the hypervisor. Therefore, the time to restore it is very low. So it's a great solution that allows you to restore a virtual machine in a couple of minutes, making it an excellent option for a quick recovery in case of disaster. Now let's go even further. Imagine that instead of a virtual machine, your hypervisor is down due to some accident. So suddenly you have no virtual machines and no place to run them. In this case, instead of mounting the image on the old hypervisor, we can mount it on the NAS itself. Because as you already know, our Synology NAS products feature a fully fledged hypervisor, which is Synology Virtual Machine Manager. The storage is already here and you already have the image of the virtual machine on the NAS. So you only need to mount it directly on the hypervisor. It also takes just a couple of minutes to start. And then your NAS, which was your backup server, turns into your production hypervisor. So you actually replaced your VMware hypervisors with the Synology NAS, and even if your main server is down, you still have a way to make your virtual machines run. Of course, when your hypervisor is fixed, you can export the OVA file to keep all the changes that were made on the virtual machine and return your NAS to the backup server. This process is called Instant Restore to Synology Virtual Machine Manager, and it's a great way to be able to continue running all the services even if the hypervisor stopped working. As you can see, with XT-Backup for Business, we have completely eliminated the virtual machine downtime and reach near zero RTO, since you can actually use your NAS either as a SUN or turn it into a hypervisor to make sure your virtual machines keep running. And now let's see how you can apply this into the real-life environment with the case study from Shiseido, who selected Synology to reduce their downtimes and protect their IT infrastructure. The issue was that the company had problems with ransomware virus, and many of the employees' PCs were infected. They decided to look for a really strong backup solution, and they tried several well-known backup software, but they were expensive, not efficient, and not user-friendly. And for Shiseido, the possibility of incremental backup through different platforms was very important. Then they found out that with XT-Backup for Business, they can centrally backup data on client PCs, virtual machines, Windows servers to a NAS, and they didn't have to purchase any additional licenses. So Shiseido decided to use RS3618XS for their virtual machine servers and another NAS, RS2416 Plus, for their employees' PCs. As you can see on the scheme on the slides, Shiseido had already been using a lot of Synology NAS before, and what they did now is they completed their IT infrastructure with 2 more NAS dedicated to XT-Backup for Business purposes. This way, ABB allowed them to create an efficient backup strategy for their data protection at no additional costs. And Shiseido was very happy with the results of this deployment. When they were using other backup tools, it usually took 6 to 8 hours to complete a restore task of the virtual machine, and after using Synology ABB, it took only 15 minutes. As we discussed before, it is a very efficient disaster recovery option. As for deduplication, they went from 58 terabytes to 28. Therefore, now Shiseido Taiwan protected their business data and reduced the time and space required for backups. And now that we've seen how you can efficiently protect all your virtual machines, let's have a look at the hardware level, our third level of virtualization protection. The goal here is to replicate your data to ensure its availability. To remove points of failure, we have dedicated solutions to virtualization protection. But first, let's see what's the difference between backup and high availability, because the idea is quite different indeed. In the backup strategy, you have a disaster recovery, so when a disaster happens, you will be able to get your data back. Of course, sometimes you might have high downtimes because you need to restore all your data. In high availability, the idea is different. Instead of trying to fix something that is broken, we want to prevent it from breaking. So we can call it a pre-disaster protection strategy. The goal is to have no downtimes at all, and to do that, we use synchronization between devices and automatic failover to ensure that your data is always available. So to remove the points of failure in your infrastructure, we have 2 dedicated solutions. First one is Virtual Machine Manager Pro, which is a pro version of Hypervisor, and Synology High Availability software solution. Let's see now in details both of them, how do they work, starting with Virtual Machine Manager Pro solution. The ideal solution is to let you create a flexible, virtualized cluster with high adaptability. As you already know, we have a hypervisor, Virtual Machine Manager, or VMM, which is powerful and completely integrated with our products. It is absolutely free and it's compatible with all models of Plus series or above. It is compatible with Windows, Linux, Red Hat, and other popular operating systems. It also gives you the ability to create virtual DSM, so you can create a virtual NAS on your VMM, which is something that you cannot do with any other hypervisor. So it's great if you want to create a completely new and separate file server to enhance security or to do some testing. Of course, we support VLAN, and we also integrated local snapshot tool, which is going to help you protect your data. But if you want, you have another way to enhance your Virtual Machine Manager, and this is Virtual Machine Manager Pro. VMM Pro lets you unlock advanced features and create high availability clusters. You can create different clusters with either 3 nodes or 7 nodes, so 3 or 7 machines. And VMM Pro also gives you additional advantages. You can get up to 255 snapshot retention compared to 32 in classic VMM. You can remotely replicate these snapshots inside the cluster onto another host. You also get live virtual machine migration and remote storage migration. The licenses are available at our retailers, so feel free to contact us if you need any help with this. Now let's see how each feature can help you protect your infrastructure with VMM Pro. The first one is remote replication. If you have one machine on which you have all the virtual machines, you still need to protect them. So what you need to do is to take a snapshot and then move that snapshot to another device to make sure that even if the main device has an issue, the second device will have all the data available to be restored. And you can do this with Virtual Machine Manager Pro. We feature complete virtual machine level snapshot with a 5-minute RPO, so we can do a snapshot every 5 minutes. We have customizable retention policies up to 255 snapshot retentions, and you can schedule an automatic replication to another NAS that is in your cluster. How it is different from snapshot replication that we saw before? Remote replication of Virtual Machine Manager Pro acts inside the hypervisor, whereas snapshot replication works on the LAN level. So if you want to completely protect your virtual machines that are on a Synology NAS, you should use a VMM Pro. Another thing that's worth mentioning is that we support automatic one-button failover to another node. So if one host of your cluster suffers a failure, you can easily export the virtual machines to another NAS in the cluster to minimize the downtimes and ensure quick disaster recovery. Of course, we also provide other tools that let you better manage your resources. You may know that if you have multiple hypervisors, you need to be able to carefully manage their resources. And to help you do that, we give you the ability to move a virtual machine from one host to another inside the VMM Pro cluster. And what is interesting is that there is no service interruption. Virtual machines keep running all the time, so it gives you the way to carefully move a virtual machine to another server without needing to stop the services at all. We also support different hosts for storage management. So if you want, you can have one of the NAS in the cluster running all the CPU intensive calculations, and another NAS is going to focus on storage management. So you can of course freely migrate the storage onto another NAS, just like a virtual machine, whenever you want. This allows you to ensure smooth operations and enables advanced resources allocations, which is a core aspect of virtualized data management. So as you can see, if you have a cluster of different NAS, you can easily migrate virtual machines. But what you can also do is setting up high availability strategy between these different servers in the cluster. And this is how it works. You just set up one of the NAS at the high availability cluster, and you need to at least 3 devices in this cluster. And the high availability device is going to automatically do a failover in case of a host failure. So it's going to be in a standby mode until one of the active NAS fails, and then it will automatically take over and ensure that the services keep working and are secured. So as you can see, even if an issue happens, your data will remain available and you will solve the problem before any disruption of your data strategy. This is the best way to make sure that all your virtual machines keep running. But of course, to do that, you will need to use the Virtual Machine Manager Pro, and you would need to have at least 3 devices, which can be quite a lot for small companies. And to help you have more cost-efficient and space-saving solution, we have another high availability solution, which this time happens on the NAS level and not on the hypervisor level. The solution is Synology High Availability, or SHA. SHA lets you set up a complete cluster for maximum data protection of 2 NAS. You will have one active server that will act as the usual NAS, is going to handle all the workload, and another NAS is going to act as a passive server. And every time something happens on the active NAS, it's going to be automatically replicated on the passive one. So you're going to have the exact same copy of your NAS on another one. And it's not only on the hypervisor level, it works with anything on the NAS, so SMB, iSCSI, NFS, and packages are also going to be replicated. And what are the requirements for such deployment? They are very simple, the requirements, and setting a high availability cluster can be done really quickly. You need to have 2 exactly the same Synology NAS, the same models. They're going to be directly connected, what we call a heartbeat link. The software configuration is also very simple, and everything is automated inside the DSM. And once your cluster is created, there is testing tools that let you try in real life the scenarios in case of an issue. And if something ever goes wrong, you can receive automatic notifications from the system, which is going to keep you informed that something happened on the active NAS and tell you how to fix it. You can run almost all the packages in the SHA configuration, which provides limitless potential. You can use VMM to create a complete redundant hypervisor experience. So you're going to have only 2 NAS, active passive, and both of them are going to be running different virtual machines on Virtual Machine Manager. And you can also run iSCSI storage if you want some redundant LAN storage for your existing hypervisors. And of course, we provide NFS redundancy. And what is interesting, you can not only run all these packages on SHA cluster, not only individually, but also you can run multiple packages at the same time on your redundant cluster. So you can have both some redundant VMs on VMM and have some iSCSI LANs that are also redundant. And to show you how to set this up in real life, we have another case study with another customer, VDS IT Solutions, an IT server provider. The company offers the hosting services for their clients, mostly Mail, Citrix, and ERP. And at the same time, at first they were trying to rent service in the data center, but in the end it turned out to be quite costly. So they decided to acquire the solution and manage them by their own. They were looking for low latency redundancy solution, and they wanted it to be easy to use in order to reduce the IT workload as much as possible. VDS also needed something easily expandable to upgrade it in the future. They decided to go for Synology High Availability. Indeed, Synology High Availability is one of the most cost-efficient redundancy solutions. They selected the FlashStation 2017 flash array to host all the storage for their virtual Citrix desktops in the redundant cluster. And they also run all their virtual machines on 2 rack stations RS18017XS Plus. So both of these structures are 100% redundant using SHA. Then these virtual machines are backed up on RS818 Plus with Active Backup for Business. Therefore, they do the backup of the virtual machines onto another NAS for free with Active Backup for Business, and then they replicate this backup onto another offsite NAS to achieve the highest data protection. Thus, this solution that they have set up is both performant and scalable, all while being cost efficient. There is no performance bottleneck for their services. They have near zero RPO and RTO. They have expandable storage because RS18017XS Plus can be expanded up to a 180 storage base. And of course, they have a complete secondary backup with Active Backup for Business and a remote backup at no extra cost. At the same time, all this is very easy to deploy, to maintain, and also easy to upgrade. So VDS IT were very happy with the solution, and they said it themselves. They can rely on this solution to provide excellent speed and maximum uptime for their customers. Now that we've seen Synology software solutions for data protection, let's look at how you can implement this solution in your infrastructure and which Synology products will be perfect for your needs. And for that, we have selected some Synology products that are going to meet the needs of any enterprise. In today's selection, we're going to focus on 3 ranges of products: the full flash array, then the high capacity storage models, and finally redundant solutions, which ensure the availability of data. Starting with the full flash array, the flash stations, these Synology NAS are built for high performance and low latency applications. They are best used with SSDs. They are equipped with high-end CPUs that make them perfect for virtualization requirements. And they have expandable memory up to 512 GB, and the storage can be expanded up to 72 bays, in which you can place SAS and SATA disks. They are perfectly suitable for low latency databases and also can be used as data stores to offload storage with no performance bottleneck. And of course, they are totally compatible with all the solutions that we saw today in this webinar. The flash station line has 3 models. Highlighting FS6400, it has a high level of iSCSI 4K random writing, reaching up to 226K IOPS, and it is equipped with 2 CPUs and has 512 GB of RAM. It natively has 24 bays that can be expanded up to 72. Then there are also FS3600 and 3400 that are also adapted to different requirements of companies. You can see their specs on the screen. Therefore, as we can see, we have different solutions from this range that can adapt to different business needs. Naturally, these solutions are made for flash storage, and to reach the best performance, endurance, and compatibility with these flash products, you will need enterprise-grade SSD. And Synology has developed our own line of amazing SSDs to complete the proposition and experience with Synology brand to our customers. We do them in 2.5 inches form factor. These are SATA SSDs. We feature up to 67,000 sustained 4 KB random write IOPS, 530 MB per second sequential read, and 500 sequential write. They're designed and tested to work flawlessly with Synology products, to be able to offer maximum reliability, and it's even possible to maintain compatibility in future firmware updates, so you will never have compatibility issue. They also have a 5-year warranty, as they are designed to withstand intensive workloads. So as I said, SAT 5200 has been tested and validated to work with all the flash stations, and they were made to work together perfectly to offer the best performance, great compatibility, and maximum durability possible. In this case, if your company is looking for deployment with a flash station and SSDs, don't hesitate to contact us to get personalized assistance. Then, if you're looking for a more traditional HDD approach for large capacity storage, we also got a solution to propose with SA line, which presents high capacity storage servers for backup and data protection needs. They also have high capacity CPUs and RAM to support high workloads. They have 12 3.5 each storage base that can be expanded up to 96 or 180 depending on the form of disks, which can be SATA, SAS, HDDs, SSDs. In this way, it will allow you to reach an impressive result of 1.5 petabyte of data with expansion units. And due to these characteristics, it's perfect model to be your main backup server with additional use cases on the side. The SA line is presented with two models, SA3600 and SA3400. They provide amazing performance with their powerful CPUs with 181 and 176K random write IOPS respectively. As I already said previously, you can reach up to 1.5 petabyte of storage if connected to expansion units. The SA line is perfect if you're looking for high capacity storage, if you want to do, for example, backup of your infrastructure on a remote NAS. We mentioned today the software high availability solutions, SHA, but you might also want to have redundancy inside your hardware itself. And to do that, we also have an HA server line with the active-active or active-passive architectures. The storage capacity is 12 base for 3.5 SAS or SATA SSDs or HDDs. What these units are going to do is guarantee the maximum availability of data with automatic controller failover mechanisms. And of course, just like the SA line, there are plug-and-play expansion units for ease installation and management. With these characteristics, these models are perfect to serve as redundant storage for virtualization. In this line, we propose two units. The first one is UC3200, which is not a NAS, but a dedicated iSCSI SAN and only works for iSCSI services. It features an active-active architecture that includes data protection tool inside its specially designed version of DSM. With all that advantages, you also get an amazing performance with 143K IOPS iSCSI 4K random write. If you're looking for a full package NAS with internal redundancy, we propose SA3200D, where D stands for dual controller. It is not a SAN, but it's a fully fledged NAS, so you can have a full package and protocol support. And there is an active-passive architecture, which means that if one of the controllers, one of the controllers will stand in a passive mode until there is an issue with the active one, and they will do an automatic failover to make sure that the NAS keeps running at any moment. Therefore, if you're looking for a hardware level protection, we have a SAN model, the UC3200, and a NAS model, SA3200D. Now you have the overview of our solutions, but of course our team remains available at any moment to assist you for pre-sales discussions for projects and ready to answer all your questions regarding the products that you would need or your client needs maybe. Feel free to contact us if needed. We also propose a test and buy program that features a selection of models and allows you to try Synology products in a real-life deployment over the period of 30 days for free before making the decision of purchasing the solution. All information is available on our website, so don't hesitate to consult it. Moreover, to cover the enterprise deployment, we provide on-site support with a service provider, allowing you to choose among flexible options, such as the next business day, same business day, or same day 24/7, so you are sure that technical support will be provided in response to your needs. If you want to have further information about any of the mentioned services, you can always contact us directly, or you can as well contact our distributors or resellers for additional information, and they will guide you towards the right solution or present the offered services. And with that, we came to the end of this webinar. Thank you for your attention and participation. We will leave the chat open for 15 more minutes to continue answering your questions. For bigger questions or requests that require more discussion, please contact us by the email that you see on the screen. Thank you.